I'm Luke Bett, and you're about to watch the Kiwi F.O.R.T podcast at Digital Nations.
I have with me today senior designer at Naughty Dog, Bensen Russell. So, Bensen, Uncharted 3 has events like the cruise ship and the desert to air and back down again chase scenes. The Last of Us's entire narrative could almost be classed as an event. These are spectacularly designed. Some of them are amazing and fantastical, and they're more action adventure movie like scenes. And some, like in The Last of Us, they're more subtle and disturbing. Sure. At times, I felt like I wasn't playing a game or experiencing a story. What is the process you and Naughty Dog go through when designing gaming events like these? How did they come about?
All right, it's basically it's different for every game. I mean, obviously, Uncharted is a very pulp action adventure. The set pieces are kind of a key moment, and a staple as part of the franchises. The Last of Us is a very gritty, realistic. Like, we want you to feel like the panic and the fear and the necessity of survival that's going on in that world to draw you into that story. In the end, but the one thing that they all have in common that Naughty Dog really strives for is cinematic storytelling. I mean, we're all fans of like deep, rich stories with good characters, and one of the things we try to do is we really want to meld the way we can actually tell that in an interactive medium. So instead of just throwing up a cutscene and letting you play it out, we were trying to find more and more ways to say, well, how can we let the player play through this? How can we let the player experience this and become part of it and really suck you in? But I mean, it's, like, for example, the cruise ship and all that stuff at the start of Uncharted 3, we all sat in a room, and we all kind of said, okay, hey, what are some set piece moments we'd love to do, or gameplay things we'd love to do for this time around, and we wrote them all up on a board or whatever, and then we go through and then we'll pick out the ones that were really cool, like the cruise ship and the cargo plane sequences and stuff, and then we'll find ways to work them into the story as best we can. And also we want to work in a way that makes sense. We don't want to ever compromise the storytelling on that front. Versus The Last of Us is a little different. The Last of Us was much more involved in the storytelling between Joel and Ellie and their journey, and so hence the idea was it wasn't about those big set pieces. It was supposed to be a lot more intimate, and hence we really wanted to focus on the character and the storytelling and stuff like that.
Brilliant. So set pieces versus open world, is it even a competition? The Last of Us has some amazingly large environments, but they were still very funneled. Do you think Naughty Dog will ever consider moving to a more open and explorable world like a Grand Theft Auto, or are the stories you're trying to tell just not suited for that style of play?
I mean, honestly, I'm not really the best person to speak to that, of course. I mean, we're all fans, inside of Naughty Dog, we're fans of so many types of games. I mean, there's people that love Grand Theft Auto, there's people that love, like, Dishonored, Assassin's Creed, but then we're also we're fans of the very good, tight narrative experience.
Exactly.
And the one thing we found that it's very difficult to tell the kind of tight narrative, character-driven experience that we like to tell in an open-world setting. It doesn't mean it's impossible, and it doesn't mean we might never do it, but it does mean it's it's a problem, You
like narrative, you like doing, having options, but you like to tell a story.
Yeah, I mean, there was a goal with one of the things we did want to do this time with The Last of Us is, like, you call it the wide corridor, the wide linear corridor, if you will. We really tried to widen that up to like some of the combat spaces to make it so you had lots of options. You could stealth around, you could skip them entirely. You could use different game mechanics at your disposal to try and overcome the scenario as best you can. But we still needed those pinch points to tell you, like, hey, there's a moment here that we need you to experience because it's going to draw you into the characters a certain way. It's going to draw you into that story a certain way. It's going to make you feel what we want you to feel, what we want to take on that ride. And it's just a matter of, like, moving forward, we'll push ourselves in directions wherever we want to go, and wherever that takes us. But so that's all I could actually say on that.
Hey, that's a brilliant answer. Thank you very much. So any hidden Easter eggs or fun little things in the Uncharted or Last of Us series that you feel people missed?
I mean, definitely. I'm sure most people got it. If you haven't, it's not really an Easter egg per se, but it was a fun little side bit. Was the Ellie's joke book, and we designed it in such a way so it's actually kind of it's difficult to find. Like, it's only in certain areas of the game. And you have to linger in this area for a certain amount of time, and then eventually she kind of like pulls the joke book out and starts talking about it. So there's little fun moments like that. But
corniest jokes.
Yeah, that's a fun story. Neil had a great time and like turned around. I remember because we all sit together, and Neil turned around and like asked everybody. He said, What are some of the worst pun type jokes you guys can think of? Like, give me some jokes. And like, because he had this idea. So and like my wife's husband, or excuse me, my wife's husband, that's me. My wife's dad is like the master of that stuff. So I mean, we were all just giving him material as much as he can. Some of those jokes are from us. Some of those jokes are things he found from other sources and whatnot. So it was just like there's little fun things like that. But yeah, there's not really. I mean, it's pretty much it's all in there. There's no like up down left right lever B8 sense like start kind of weird.
Or just a matter of exploring those large environments.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I've heard you say that System Shock was a game that really made you want to get into games. What was it about that game that inspired you so much?
Well, it's not necessarily that I wouldn't say it's like it wasn't like the pinnacle game that made me say I really wanted to get into games per se, but it was more. It's the first time I played a game. The reason why I rate it so highly is the first time I played a game that I felt totally immersed in the world. Now, granted, the controls were awful. I mean, this was way back in the day when PC developers were like, "No, you should never be allowed to rebind your keys. That's a no-no. You play it the way we want to." So I'm like, I remember doing like left-handed mouse crossover kind of weird things to be able to get through that game. But I actually felt like I was a character on that space station, in those creepy settings, and every floor of the space station had a different vibe, a different feel, a different dynamic. It was awesome. I just got so sucked into that environment, and that stuck with me a lot, which is why it's one of my favorite games of all time.
A title simply called Uncharted for the PlayStation 4 was recently given its own page on a German website, the German GameStop website. There is no mention of Naughty Dog. It simply says it's an action title, and there's no release date. Are you able to give any insight onto why they might have put this post?
No idea what that is.
Yep, sweet.
Maybe we need to talk to our legal department.
Okay, so other than DLC and patches that the team is working on, can you give us any idea of how many titles Naughty Dog is working on at the moment?
Not really. I mean, it's like we're working. I mean, we've talked about we're working on DLC for The Last of Us, and we keep continuing to enrich the Uncharted multiplayer universe and stuff like that as best we can. But there's stuff in the pipe that will eventually come out at some point. But,
awesome.
Yeah, nothing I can say about that.
Hey, listen, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Yeah,
I hope you enjoy your stay in New Zealand. And
New Zealand's been fantastic. We've loved the country so far. It's our first time here.
Brilliant. Hey, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm Luke Batt from the Kiwi F.O.R.T podcast, and that was us at Digital Nations. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.
Yeah!